France. I just want you to know, time for more political mayhem with the American adversaries. Tough guy, how about a ho?
Chris, one of my golf partners.
Your old buddy, Jim Duggan.
I know, I'll never forget, we were playing at Alaqua. He tees off. The head of the club goes into the swimming pool. The back of the club goes into the swimming pool. I said, Jim, I've never seen such a horrible shot in 10 years there. But a great guy.
That's a pretty slick trick.
Oh, I know. I mean, not a very talented golfer, but certainly a great entertainer.
Yeah, and very intelligent as well.
Yep.
As are our listeners, and we appreciate you for being out there listening to the American Adversaries on AM 660 The Answer and FM 105.5. And AM660theanswer.com is where you can go tonight, folks, to help us save the babies. Be a part of this campaign. I implore you, I beg you, to do whatever you can. Start with prayer and work up from there. Save the Babies is sponsored by the Salem Media Group, and, of course, all the money raised goes to help great organizations, pregnancy centers like Laboratories. And if you've been listening earlier today when Michael Medved was normally on the show, you heard some great testimonies all throughout that show. Please go to am660theanswer.com, or you can call at 800-357-1997. That's 800-357-1997. And save the babies. You'll be glad you did. And someday, who knows, you might be walking down the street. You won't even know it, but you might be walking past a baby that you helped save. That's how great God works. All right, am660theanswer.com, 800-357-1997. Thank you, folks, who have already helped out. We really appreciate it. Let's keep the momentum going. All right, we're talking with Stephen Coughlin. He's former intelligence officer. He's an attorney, and he's obviously very schooled in Islam. His organization is called Unconstrained Analytics. You can visit him at unconstrainedanalytics.org. You can also find him on YouTube. And Stephen, I want to kind of divert a little away from what we were just talking about, and we're going to come back to it, but I want to ask you about these hearings tomorrow. You're an former intelligence man. Obviously, you had clearance of some level anyway, and you are a lawyer, so you understand if you will, from the facts that you know, what's already been out there concerning Hillary Clinton, emails and State Department business, classified security clearances and things like that. Did she go over the line, legally speaking? Has she broken the law? And if not, what level of violation has she occurred?
Well, I'll answer it like this. I was an intelligence officer, and I was in the Pentagon. And while there, when you get a security clearance, you have to be debriefed, and you have to sign what the liability is, what you could go to jail for. So
it's a legal document that spells this out, basically.
And every time, and usually at least once a year, you have to go through what's called an indoctrination, where you have to go through a briefing that people sleep through because it's the 100th time you've been through it, where they say, we can send you to jail for this. You cannot put official government correspondence on a private email system. That's against the law. You cannot put classified information on unclassified systems. That is staggeringly against the law. And the thing about it is,
whether she knew they were classified or not,
well,
according to her.
In the legal world, the term is strict scrutiny. You are responsible for the documents you're handling. Now, that means you are responsible to know what is or is not classified. Now, we may be talking about a situation where she's looking at her email and didn't know that someone put a classified document on her email, but then it's her private email system, so then she has there would have to be responsibility for that.
Steve, isn't she guilty just by the fact she has a private email system?
Well, I don't understand.
Just for that, no matter what came through.
I think I would be in jail within minutes.
That's what I'm saying. I think she's guilty just by what she did
within minutes
and what
of the
she
finding
hid.
being there. Yeah,
right.
I can't understand.
No matter what's on emails.
I don't understand what the lag is here. But let me say this. There is. I don't want to say what the names of them are, but you could work at a desk. There's reasons why I'm not going to say what it is. You have something called NIPRNet, which is unclassified. You have another computer, which I won't say what it is, which holds secret information. And there's another computer system that has top secret intelligence information. And they're all on different systems, so that you would have to physically take a classified document off a classified system and then put it in the unclassified system. If you did that in the Pentagon on the NIPRNet, that's a crime. But she took it, what we're told, what I'm hearing on the news,
right.
and I'm commenting on that,
correct,
that classified information, either she did it or someone in furtherance of her authorization, it would seem, took classified information and put it on an unclassified private system. I mean, that's staggeringly illegal. And we send people to, there are privates, lieutenants, and captains and majors and sergeants who are in jail for something like that. And, you know, if you take a look at Snowden, if I'm the Chinese and I know she's putting classified information on an unclassified system, you have to understand that they're bringing all force to bear to look at that. And the idea that this is even being cast as something that could be accidental, when the fact of its happening is itself the crime. It's what they would call strict liability. And everybody who gets cleared for classified information signs that they've been debriefed, that they've been informed of that, they've been told what these documents are and how they're classified.
Chris, I'm for sending Steve up to the hearing tomorrow instead of our congressman, because he obviously knows a lot more than our congressman.
Well, you read my mind. I was just going to ask, Steve, you heard what I said earlier on the show. You were sitting right there. Do you have much confidence that this hearing tomorrow is actually going to bring these type things out?
I have long since not had too much confidence in oversight hearings in Congress, and the disappointing part of it is that now that the Republicans have taken control, I have even less.
Oh, so encouraging, Steve.
Well, that doesn't surprise me.
Let's get fired up.
Well, but that's just what I was saying earlier in the show about them not being true adversaries. Go ahead.
The code to watch for is if the oversight entity, if the chairman of the oversight entity subpoenas you, if you're in the FBI, subpoenas you if you're in the Department of Defense or in state, then you get to answer and say what you believe the situation to be. But if you're not, and you are automatically entitled to an attorney at government cost, if you are not subpoenaed, your job is to answer according to the policy of the directorate you work for. That's just the way it should be. You can't have individuals from the FBI go off to Congress and say what they want. And so, but the point becomes, when you realize that the committees will not subpoena people from DHS, people from the FBI, people from DOD to say what they think, where they have now protections that adhere to them, then you have to suspect that they're not really serious in those oversight hearings.
I guess I'm not going to watch them tomorrow.
Well,
that's very disillusioning.
We shall see, but certainly that's not doesn't inspire confidence. But you mentioned the FBI. Of course, they're looking into this as well. Do you have more confidence in the FBI? I would feel like that at least those guys will give a report to the Attorney General that she then will do whatever with, but that they will be thorough. Do you think?
Well, I don't think it's often an issue of what that military officer on the ground, what that special agent in the FBI or DHS will do. I think it's a question of what the people who, as you move up, will allow them to do, and whether or not they will take the action to do it, to include letting them actually investigate something real. I think that the FBI, I think that the special agents, if they're authorized to go do this, would do it. I mean, I would not have too much concern about that.
Yeah. And
I mean, this is such a government that doesn't follow the laws, as we know with Sanctuary City and all these type of situations, that it just, I just hope this thing isn't hopeless, that this is just an exercise in futility.
Well, I'm off my topic on this. I'm just, familiar with how to handle classified information. But I think
I wanted to take advantage of that. But that's very enlightening.
I think we're in difficult times, and I think that, I get into some fights when I'm in Washington D.C. Because I keep saying to some people, you don't get to talk about what Obama's doing until you understand that your leadership on the Republican side has allowed it to happen. And so long as they're rolling over on a regular, predictable level, you don't get to talk about them. You need to talk. You don't get to talk the deep battle when the close battle is where you're getting taken out.
All right, well, that kind of brings us back to your expertise. You're talking about, by the way, we're speaking with Stephen Coughlin, and you can find his work at unconstrainedanalytics.org, and you can also see him. He has some great YouTube videos, and I want to get to those here in just a couple minutes. And, of course, you can see and meet him tomorrow night and get his book at Doc's Streetside Grill. At 6:30 is when the doors open. It's free to see the presentation. And, of course, you can eat there before or after. And it's free parking. And, Stephen, you were mentioning that to really understand the enemy and what we're up against, we can't sort of imagine how we would like the world to be. For instance, Islam being a religion of peace. We have to look at it the way they see it and the way they are practicing it. You just mentioned President Obama. Obviously, we don't think that he sees the world correctly. I want to get your opinion on that. But then again, the administration before him, after 9/11, seemed to go out of their way to make it seem as though we weren't really at war with Islam. Do you think that was the correct strategy, or was that somehow off base and began the process of misleading, continuing that process?
Well, I think that when you take a look, when I answer a question like that, what comes to my mind is what has been going on and influencing people as they make these decisions. And I bring up the fact that we have to understand the role, what the nature of Islamic warfare is, and what the main effort is. And we all know how to say jihad, but there's not just jihad. There's something called dawah, and that's the subversion phase, to penetrate into organizations and subvert them. And that always precedes the jihad action. And in their concept of war, that's the main effort, because their goal is with a couple bombs, knock over the other enemy because you sap their will. And in that entity, in that reality, who is the player that caused President Bush to veer his eyes off of keeping himself threat focused, and who has consistently moved themselves into the center of power in a certain sense? And to me, that's the Muslim Brotherhood. And what you find is people don't know who the Muslim Brotherhood is, and they don't understand who they are in America. But for example, the Council on American Islamic Relations was formed out of Hamas, and Hamas is the Muslim Brotherhood out of Palestine. You have something called the ISNA, Islamic Society in North America. You have something called MPAC, Muslim Public Affairs Council. You have something called the IIIT, the International Institute of Islamic Thought. You go down all these organizations, and you could get U.S. government documents that were seized by the FBI and used as evidence in the by the U.S. Justice Department to show that this is the Muslim Brotherhood. And on a document that was admitted to a federal court of law, they say right there, our job is to get close to you and get you to subvert yourself, by working with us. And so if you go to the local college campus and you see the Muslim Student Association, the MSA, you see that CARE is at the protest, you see that ISNA is running the mosques, you're looking at a situation where the Brotherhood is running the show as far as what the public face of Islam is.
How deep into our government do these people go? You're talking about independent organizations, supposedly, but how deep into our government? Because we hear like one of the national security advisors for Barack Obama is a Muslim, and so how deep does the Muslim Brotherhood go into our government?
Well, I would make a distinction, because in theory there could be nothing wrong with a Muslim being in the government. The problem would be,
how do you know?
The problem would, you can't always know a lot of things, but here's what you can know. Are those people affiliated with the Brotherhood, or are they close to it? And in that instance, if we can show, for example, in 2007, I was in the Pentagon, and all of a sudden people came up to me and they said, Steve, did you read that article that's coming out next month? And like, by the 10th time you run into something, did you read about the article that's coming out next month in a Foreign Affairs magazine called The Moderate Muslim Brotherhood? Well, that's when we realized, there's a policy shift coming in here, because we're being told to read something that hasn't been released. And, of course, what happened is that's when Condoleezza Rice, that's when the U.S. shifted their strategy and said the Moderate Muslim Brotherhood was going to be the counterweight to radical al-Qaeda. And then within a year, you had Judge Chertoff under the Bush administration at DHS say, here's the words we can no longer use to analyze the threat. So I'm one of those people who says, yes, it's bad under this administration, but actually the banning of that language happened in the last administration.
I know, it drives me nuts.
And you want to talk about how bad things are in Syria with what we're doing, and I think it's catastrophic. The name of my book is Catastrophic Failure. But everything we've seen the Obama administration do, we've seen McCain and Lindsey Graham over their running point on. And so I think people need to get comfortable with the fact that there's something wrong with our national security establishment writ large. And so